Eric Holder is in the news again. Yes, indeed, the Attorney General that most Republicans hate and us here at the Fowler Show love is in the news again saying it's time that we have a conversation. This one is a kitchen room conversation. This conversation can be had up high. Ha ha ha, you liked that one, didn't you? The up high.
Oh, yeah. It's clever.
You were late, you missed it.
It's time.
In a newly published PBS Frontline interview, former Attorney General Eric Holder comes out in support of reclassifying marijuana from a Schedule I substance and classifications reserved for dangerous drugs that have no medical use into a less restrictive category. This is what he says. I certainly think it ought to be rescheduled, Holder says. We treat marijuana in the same way we treat heroin now. It's clearly not appropriate. The classification, he goes a bit further in his comments. In 2014, he said that rescheduling drugs is something that I think we need to ask ourselves and use science as a basis to make this determination. And as high as we are, we couldn't agree with Eric more.
No, you're totally right. And what's interesting about this story is, so currently marijuana is Schedule 1. A Schedule 1 means that it is a drug that has no medical benefit. Now, if you talk to the folks that use some kind of marijuana product because they have cancer,
ADD in their kids,
oh my God,
seizures,
children with seizures, I mean, the evidence
glaucoma.
Is there. I mean, it is totally there. And I mean, there's this whole sordid history about why it's illegal.
Because they can't tax it.
It has nothing to do with
my thing is this. We celebrate cilantro. We celebrate rosemary. We celebrate sage.
Celebrate cilantro.
We do. We celebrate cilantro. I mean, it's like, oh, this has cilantro. It's so good. Like, you know, at all the new restaurants, oh, this rice is cilantro infused. Well, just like cilantro, so is marijuana.
Sure.
Grown out of the ground.
Well, tobacco's grown out of the ground too, and that gives you cancer. But
wait, okay, I'm sorry. But tobacco's completely legal, like you smoked
Exactly.
it.
That's my point, right? If tobacco is available everywhere, and the fact that we even have a law, the law is written because the tobacco industry is so crazy that children can actually smoke cigarettes all they want. They just can't buy it, right? It literally makes no sense.
It's because the tobacco lobby, which is huge, and the weed lobby. I don't know. But here's the thing. I mean, my thing about the weed,
there's gonna be a weed lobby.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. There's definitely gonna be a weed lobby because let me tell you,
they're
the
printing
weed
money
companies,
in Colorado.
not only in Seattle, and the thing is, they only could take cash. So they're just gonna come to Washington with a wad of cash and be like, "You want to vote for my bill? Vote for my bill." Well, I think, and I also think like the weed people, the problem that they have is they can only have cash. They cannot have it. They don't have bank accounts. They're not allowed to have bank accounts. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
Yeah. No, I did know that.
Because
but
of FDIC rules.
But soon, I mean, the IRS is usually always faster than the federal government. The IRS is usually like, okay, there's money getting exchanged here. We're going to stick our hands in.
Well, like, for example, in Colorado, the weed manufacturers, or the people that grow the weed, when they pay their taxes in cash, it's quite a sight to see, like, they pull up to, like, the tax office with, like, a Brinks truck, and they're like, unload the money! Unload the money! And the money's just as green as the marijuana.
I don't know. I think it's a great call, though. Eric Holder is definitely taking a step in the right direction. I mean, at least for me, like if we had said 15 years ago that this conversation would have been on the table, you would have been like, nah, not in my lifetime. Exactly. And the fact that it's happening, you know, I think it's a good thing.
And one more tidbit to add to the story. So Tom Angell, who's the chair and for the advocacy group Marijuana Majority, which is their lobby firm, says he wishes Eric would have worked harder towards reforming marijuana when he was the Attorney General. In a quote in the PBS NewsHour, the PBS Frontline, and I love PBS Frontline, by the way, I'm a total nerd. He says, "It is nice to have Holder support for this sensible policy change. It would have been a lot better if he exercised that power to get marijuana rescheduled done when he was still in office." Tis, 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 Eric.